Stef Broks and Daniël De Jongh from Textures.
Hi!
Hey!
So your latest album, Dualism, features a new vocalist, Daniel. And he seems to fit the band really well, both live and on record. So we were wondering, how did you guys meet? How did you find him?
Well, actually, Eric came up with this name. Eric was our former singer.
Yeah.
And he said, well, maybe you have to check out this guy, Daniel. He's with the band Silence.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, it's Silence.
Silence. Yeah, they say.
That was right. Yes.
So we checked him, we checked him out, and his voice was awesome. We were stunned by, the capabilities of the things in his throat. No, it was really cool. So we invited him for a conversation, to talk, to chat, and to check him out socially. And he had to do with his exam. We do it, we have a lot of ex-members, so after a while, we had this idea to set up an exam for new members. Yeah, where's Texas coming from? What are the ex-members?
Yeah.
When is Stef's birthday? And all that kind of stuff.
I didn't know anything. I was like, oh yeah. So
He had to read this booklet about the whole stuff. He learned it by heart, and actually he passed the whole, we succeeded. So
A plus.
A+.
yeah, and he was in the band, and we're still having a good time with him. Yeah,
And,
so.
How's the response from the fans been so far?
Well, it's been really good actually. I didn't really have heard anything bad. And for me, that's personally, it's like, whew, that's good.
But it's also, I think, in the way that we presented Daniel. We had this video, this podcast video with Eric
I remember.
introducing Daniel. And for us, that was the best way to do it. And Eric came up with that idea, that to introduce himself. So that's great. So we never have problems with that switch. And the fans, no, not really. Cool.
Well, Dualism was released recently, and how was the feedback you received so far? You have received so far from the fans?
Well, today was probably the first day that we really got feedback from the fans, because in USA we were 6 weeks in USA, like a couple of weeks before. Dualism is out for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and by the time that it was released, people didn't, in USA, most people didn't know the new songs. But now here in Cologne, we played new songs for the first time for people that really know the songs.
And they even sang along.
Yeah,
The new song.
and it was great. Come on, did you see that mosh pit that sang
Oh,
across
yeah.
the oath?
Fuck! That was amazing. But besides the live thing, on the internet we got a lot of positive reactions. People really like the song, like the album. And that was really good to see, because it's a new step. And you have 2 new members, and it's a whole new thing.
New record label.
New record label, so you never know what to expect. We didn't have any expectations. We were like, all right, we'll see what's coming up. And it just ended even better than we could have thought.
Even the press is this word sucks, I can't pronounce it. Unanimously.
Unanimously.
Unanimously positive. Fuck, I suck. But it's great, all the big news magazines and the radio stations. Yeah, it's great actually. And we released the record in a very tough month with Opeth, Machina, Dream Theater. But still, people they pick us out between those, the really big ones.
Yeah,
that's great.
Even the album ended up in the top 100 in Holland. And that's crazy.
And in France as well. And in the
first week or something, I don't even know.
Yeah. In the charts. Textures in the charts. It's weird, but it happens.
Daniel, were you involved in the writing of the
Yeah, well, a lot of music was already written before, but there were a lot of parts that weren't written, and so it was like a combination of old material, not really old material that was already written like a while ago or like before I was in the band, and we had like hours of music on our server, which was like unbelievable. I think maybe even 8 hours or something. I don't know. So
a lot of hours.
Yeah. And
So when are we gonna hear the rest of it?
Oh, actually, it's quite interesting stuff.
Yeah?
But they just didn't make it to a full song.
yeah.
But we have loads of stuff left, and there's cool stuff between it. So
You never know, but yeah, with especially with the vocal recording, with the old stuff, a couple of ideas were already from Eric, because some ideas were already so that good that I was like, I don't need to rewrite those vocal lines. Like, those are perfect for that piece. And but other parts I rewrote or I just made up myself. It's just a combination. It's really a big combination. But yeah, I was involved for a big chunk in the writing process. Yeah.
And you had your own studio for writing and producing this album. How did that work out?
Well, let's make one thing clear. Like the first one is really built in a rehearsal room, but the second you guys built together.
yeah, it's already third studio.
Yeah.
But this studio is really Jochem's studio. The first studio we built for Polars, the debut album, was in our rehearsal room. Second one was in another city, was built in the house of Jochem, where Bart is living now, actually. So he's the new owner of the studio. And with this album, Jochem built his own studio, and actually this one is the most professional. It's actually one of the most professional, most professional studios in Holland, where he's doing a lot of actually famous bands and acts. You know, so this is great. We had all the time, because it's Jochem's own studio. We could make our own schedule. You know, it's
Like luxury.
more than fantastic to have, you know, that amount of time. So yeah, great.
Does the album have an underlying concept? Because as you can see from the lyrics, water seems to play an important role.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
fuck, it's cold.
Really.
You know, we always have a. This might be the fourth album that is about this concept. That is contrast.
So the concept band instead of
Yeah, but I don't want, you know,
Musically.
when you hear concept, actually when I hear the word concept, I think about a story, a continuous line throughout the whole album, like The Wall, or maybe some, like the album from Sabotage or something, Wake of Magellan, or such albums. But our album is not like that. It's not about a guy who, you know, not like War of the Worlds or something. But it's a lyrical concept, like a lyrical theme, which is contrast, and every song has its own kind of story, its own line, and tells its own story. And Water, yeah, like you said, is one of the main, what's the word for that? Examples that we use, like one of the main metaphors that we use to describe the feelings of the person in the lyrics.
And how did you pick the album single Reaching Home? It seems to be a bit more mellow than the rest of the album. Was that intentional?
A bit more metal.
Yeah, mellow.
Melodic.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's by far the most catchy song,
Yeah.
I guess, that Texas ever wrote. It was not hard. You know, when you
It wasn't intentional. Let's make that.
no, it was not the intention. But when you have to pick a single, you have to always take care about that it's 4 minutes, or to think about that it's not longer than 3.5 or 4 minutes, because you know it's the radio kind of edit mode. And Reaching Home was practically the only song, along with the Consonant Hemispheres. But Reaching Home is just, you know, the most catchy song. So, you know,
And the concept in that song, like the story.
it's very representative for the
Really
whole thing.
representative, and it just made a good concept for video clip as well. So that all together was like just a the main reason to put that one out.
Yeah.
As you mentioned earlier, you toured the US with Periphery. If I'm not mistaken, it was the first time in the US
Yeah.
with Textures. So how was it to finally cross the Atlantic? And did you notice any differences with Europe?
Maybe the big difference is like, maybe it's kind of a stereotype, I don't know. They were really enthusiastic, really enthusiastic.
People in general.
Yeah. They were like.
You mean less critical?
Yeah,
or you...
maybe. Europeans are pretty like down to earth and like maybe a little bit more critical about music as well in general.
Yeah.
And the Americans like more like really open to it. We had like 2 shows which were a bit like off, but the rest were like just amazing. And the people were there like really, they really made us feel welcome. That was the first.
And that's how Americans are, I guess. You know, they are very open.
Yeah.
Actually, I always thought it was a bit over the top. Yeah, it's awesome. But they really want to give you that good feeling. So it's not fake. It's good. I don't know. There are some differences. It's hard to describe. You know, there's just one thing that I was surprised by. That American bands just sound different. You know, we played with a lot of bands, also a lot of opening bands, and they sound different from the European bands. I think European bands like Tesseract, like Textures, we have more experiment in the song. You know, every album is different from the previous album because we want to create new sounds and we want to experiment with our sound, with what we can. And most American bands have the sound is set and they continue to, you know, with that specific sound. And that's also good, but it's just different.
It's different.
Yeah, like for instance, Radiohead is a big band in Europe. I think it would not be possible to, you know, for Radiohead to be the biggest band in USA. Radiohead is so European because of the experiment, the new sound, the progressive kind of mood that they have. It's totally weird music, but they are huge. You know, think about it. It's crazy. Such an uncommercial band.
Euroblast is all about gent. You guys were around before gent was a thing, but now you're kind of lumped in with it. So what's your take on gent?
Yeah, people ask us that all the time. But what should we think about it? You know, like.
It's just a term. I don't know. It's just they just put a sticker on the genre. Because the Texture was there like for a long time already, and then now there are bands popping out which doing kind of the same thing, but the sound is different, and the thing in general is, of course, it's great. You have this kind of movement right now, which brings all these bands like a step higher, maybe.
Yeah.
And that's good. And, like, of course, it's good for us too, somewhere. But it's like.
And there's this weird thing going on. 10 years ago, when we started, and of course we were not the only band. Come on. Like Dillinger's K-Plan and Meshuggah and stuff. But I can still remember the first Texture shows and the first Meshuggah shows because we liked Meshuggah already in '94. And people were banging their heads, like I sometimes say, like looking to their neighbor, like, what the fuck is he banging? Like, he's banging to a totally different song, you know? People were not understanding the music, or they were trying to understand it. And now, especially in USA with Periphery, the whole crowd's like, they know. They
like dubstep.
Yeah, there's some kind of development that when through in the audience because they interpreted, they internalize the rhythms, the sort of rhythms. So they can dance to it. It's so, and that's great actually because you can see that the audience improved, and finally the audience are the musicians as well. And they also create music, and maybe they form new bands, and those bands will have a new kind of sound, and will be, state of the art as well. So, in the end, it's great that you can see the whole thing, going to the next level. It's great to see that.
In August August, you launched your own signature shoes. This is quite unusual for a metal band, so we're wondering how did this idea come about?
Well, the thing was Floris from Cologne.
Yeah.
He was already a big fan of the band, and he wanted to do something with that. And I don't even, did he suggest it? I don't even know. Yeah, he suggested to do something with like a cooperation with the band and the shoes, and he wanted to make this particular shoe for this band, and he for textures. And
It's actually a very classy shoe maker. Floris from Bommel.
He makes like really, for a higher standard or something. Even for the, I don't know if I can say it, but it's for the Royal House in Holland as well. He makes shoes for it. Like, it's unbelievable. And now he wants
So for the king and the queen and for
I don't know. Yeah, exactly. For the king and the queen and for us. So that was amazing. And now he's sponsoring this tour. What is coming up in Holland and Belgium. Maybe just but it's like it's Floris from Bommel presents. Yeah, exactly. So that's like amazing. He did a lot of things for us.
And he makes these texture sneakers now.
Yeah, it's like,
which is really dope. You know, really nice to see our sneakers with textures on the side. Very classy sneakers. No, it's not these actually.
no.
We will present them in like 1 or 2 weeks or so. They are finished. So we're looking forward to that. You know, to wear. Actually, I have one pair for my girlfriend as well.
Yeah, me too.
So we can have our own groupies. Fuck yeah! No, but it's nice, man. We owe a lot to this guy, to Floris, because he put in so much effort and advertising in the band. It's great.
And what are Texture's plans for the future?
Oh, playing. Actually, we just released the record and the video clip. Now it's touring. It's a cliche answer, but we just did all the press. You know, this is like one of the final things that we're doing here, and we have to play a lot. We're planning a tour after the UK tour to go to throughout Europe and India and maybe Australia as well. Maybe back to USA.
Yep.
Playing.
I was meaning to ask, you guys are quite big in India, as it seems.
Yeah, it's weird. Well, yeah. At the last show, like we had some few thousand people turn up at our headline show, and that was in Delhi. And before that, 1 year before that, was in Bangalore. There was 6,000 people. You know, what the fuck? I don't know. But we want to go there. The scene is great.
It's keep growing. It's like,
yeah, but there's 1 billion people living in India. You know, and it's like they collectively turn on the metal radio system. Like, whoa, it's all new to them, you know. And like I can imagine the first time when Joachim entered the stage and he just hit his guitar. You know, when he came on stage, like, oh yeah, boom, and the audience was, oh my god, fuck, that guitar sound is awesome. Oh, they just screamed, and we didn't play like
nothing.
A thing. He just did that. They never heard such a heavy guitar, you know. Nowadays, there's a lot of bands going to India. Actually, they can have all they want because everybody wants to go to India. So you see Gojira and Carnival, all the bands, you know, go to, and Tesseract as well. Yeah, they all go to India. It's maybe a bit overcrowded now with bands. We want to go back for sure, and a lot of Indian people too. I have 4,000 Facebook friends, and more than half of them are Indian. So every day I end up with some Abi Shaf or Shasnaf, you know, or some guy who wants to talk. It's crazy. It's very cool. We even ended up at, you know, for the second time at the biggest rock magazine.
Yeah.
At the cover of a big
pages.
Yeah, with the 8-page cover story about textures, alongside Red Hot Chili Peppers and stuff. It's a Rock Street Journal.
Yeah.
The country is totally crazy. It's an amazing country. It's a beautiful country. People are over the top. Sometimes the organizations are, you know, a bit slacking or lacking.
Yeah, but
it's all new to them.
New,
but it's so fun. It was definitely one of the most amazing experiences in our life, you know, in general. Crazy. Yeah. He actually looks like an Indian guy. He's,
Oh yeah. Not that brown.
yeah. Oh no, it's more. No.
a nose.
Oh wait, no. One
It's a
day we go
nose.
to Turkey. Or, yeah. No, actually, like you said, he
everywhere.
gets recognized as a real citizen in Holland, in India, in
Everywhere.
every country.
Spain, in Italy, they all started talking in the same language. Like,
Yeah. It's amazing. It's great.
I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, guys, thank you very much. The last words are yours.
Last thing to our viewers.
Yeah. Hello, viewers.
Hello. What do we want to say?
Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Oh, goodbye.
Hello and goodbye. No.
Hello.
And of course,
Oh no, why say goodbye?
keep checking our websites, our Facebooks. Pick up the album, come to the shows, and we'll see you there because we really want to see you guys over there. See you soon.
Yeah.